Prologue. The boisterous sound of a ringing bell echoed through the area, the sound delivering the result, the sound of judgment dividing the winners and losers, the signal of the end. As Layfon stood, wordless, Sharnid made some silly noise, and Feli sighed lightly. Nina heard all that through Feli's transmitter flakes. Without a word, she accepted the truth, while the sound of the siren freed her from tension and excitement. The excited voice of the MC echoed in the battlefield, and in turn, the howling of the audience became louder. Forgetting the noise that seemed to swallow her, Nina stood still. What did it mean to be strong? To be absolutely strong means not losing to anyone. In other words, it means to be the strongest. If that was the case, then what was the existence of the strongest? The people she had met, the people she knew from books, these people were valiant, strong, but they were still far from being the strongest. Even strong fighters had experienced failures. They matured through failures, as they went through a journey of failures in order to become stronger. Then they weren't the strongest. And half of those people reached the end of their lives through that journey. Was it impossible for humans to be the strongest? If so, then what does it mean to be the strongest? Is the creature on the top of the food chain the strongest being, those filth monsters? If she kept on following this line of thought, then the world itself was probably the strongest. Leaving aside the food chain, all creatures managed to live only by standing on the stage this world provided. And should the world change, the so-called food chain would be easily destroyed. In fact, there had been a huge change in the world's distant past, before Nina's birth. No records remained of how this happened, but the filth monsters appeared and conquered the earth. They spread across the world, destroying the ecosystem, turning the earth into a barren place. But was the earth really the strongest existence in this world? That was doubtful too, because humans still lived and survived in this world, despite its changed appearance. Humanity lived in mobile cities that were isolated from the rest of the world. In other words, they created their own worlds. Wasn't this the proof of the strongest? The other proof was the filth monsters. When the ecosystems were destroyed and all plants and animals faced extinction, the filth monsters were born, making the pollutants their food. Wasn't this the result of survival adaptation? I'm thinking too far. She abandoned her thoughts to watch the young man before her. Here is a man who had defeated the filth monsters, Layfon al-Saif, the new military art student, and he belonged to the 17th platoon, the genius military artist who had obtained the title of the Heaven's Blade successor at Grendon. To Nina, he was the closest to what could be the strongest existence, but Layfon lifted his gaze at the ringing of the bell and loosely lowered his sword. The two members of the 14th platoon that he had struck down moaned and relaxed at the sound of the bell. The captain of the 14th platoon lowered his weapon. The satisfied smile of someone who executed a successful plan blossomed on his face. Teamwork. Nina turned around to look behind her, strengthening her vision through internal type K, and saw the flag of her team had fallen. Over there, Sharnid shrugged as if surrendering. Nina resented herself for worrying about how people would have perceived his response. The captain of the opposing team patted her shoulder. The murderous eyes of the captain during the match turned back into those of a senpai.
The exhaustion of not having tried her best loosens up her tension, and she lowered her shoulders.
The captain of the 14th platoon walked over to say a few words to Layfon, and then help his subordinates, who were still lying on the ground, get back to their base.
Thank you.
Nina bowed to the back of the captain, fulfilling the etiquette required from a junior student. She bit her lips as she gazed at the ground.
Chapter 1. Confusion.
How've you been? My school life's busy, but it's more ordinary than yours. After I got one of your letters, a few more reached me a few weeks after. I don't know when you'll receive this letter, but I hope it will reach you faster than yours reached me. I'm happy that you haven't given up the military arts. You finally made a decision after going through a lot of trouble. I'd be embarrassed if you made up your mind because of my letter, but I'm still happy about that. I've made a new friend. It's tiring to be around that interesting person. This must be what they call pros and cons. The orphanage is still full of noise and life. Father has left the dojo, but he's not teaching the kids at the orphanage. He's gone to teach in a real dojo. It's hard work to manage a dojo in Grendon, but people living nearby have enrolled, so we're making money. We plan to apply for government funding, so don't worry too much about the situation here. We're not getting as much money as we were when you were helping here, but I think we can manage.
So how are you doing over there? Are you sick? Have you been eating well? I'm worried. You never pay much attention to the nutrients in your diet. It seems you've made a lot of friends. But how come there are no lawn? But how come they're all girls?
that. I do mind. Perhaps Layfon is a lecher. That kind of thing makes me worried. I really should have protested more strongly about you going to Zuellni. Ah, please take it as a joke. Oh yes, just to say, I'm happy that you haven't given up the military arts. But I don't want you to become the Layfon you were in Grendon. I envy the Layfon training with all his concentration on the military arts. You looked cool. But I didn't like the Layfon who became a Heaven's Blade successor. Do you understand the difference? You understand the difference?
When the letter first came, there was this interesting topic. Maybe you'll be surprised, but I won't tell you just yet. It'd be great if it can surprise you a bit.
I'll write to you again. To my dear Layfon Wolfstein Alsaif. Laren Marfus.
Delicate fingers folded the letter along old folds. Praying that nobody would discover this, she put the letter back into the correct mailbox. Forbidden from living on the polluted earth, humans lived in mobile cities. As if floating on the earth, the cities move according to their own consciousnesses and maintained contact through the center of the traffic network, the traffic city Joldom. The network wasn't reliable, but it was a way to connect them.
Academy City. Within the ranks of the Regios were cities of different functions. This type of city, specializing in education, moved within this unstable network. It gathered boys and girls, letting them study knowledge. In here, where no adults set foot, children were learners and also teachers. This was the Academy City, and Zuellni was one of the Academy cities.
Sunlight shot through into a classroom that was filled with a boisterous atmosphere before class began. The students entering the classroom placed their bags behind their seats and either joined into different conversation circles or prepared for class. Some ran about, asking for notes to copy. Some stayed immersed in their own world. Surrendering to the urge to sleep, Layfon bent over his desk.
Oh, morning.
The other person gave his back a heavy hit.
What?
Oh. Morning.
Me. Chan, you went over the line.
Yeah, maybe Layton still hasn't recovered from the match.
Oh, wasn't that 2 days ago? As if Layton would get tired just because of that, right?
Yeah, the match wasn't tiring. I'm okay.
But you look like you wanted to sleep.
No, really, I'm fine.
Looking at Mei Shen's worried eyes, he nodded in a carefree manner. Her eyes were always teary. He didn't know what to do about that.
Even so, you look tired. What is it? Did you have to work yesterday too?
It's all right.
I see. Well, working for days at a time can be tiring.
It's hard work to clean the mechanism chamber.
Yeah, if you seriously want to prepare for the platoon matches, I think it's better for you to quit the cleaning job.
These three girls knew each other before they came to Zuellni. Layfon met them because he stopped the riot at the opening ceremony. And that was also the reason he was transferred into the military arts. But these three had nothing to do with his transfer. The student president, Carrion Loss, knew from the beginning who Layfon was, a Heaven's Blade successor in Grendon.
No, I'm getting used to cleaning there already.
The cleaning job in the central mechanism, cleaning the heart of the Regios, Layfon really had gotten used to it. The repetitive bodywork was way more relaxing than using his brain.
Then what is it?
Something.
Are you hiding something?
No, definitely not.
No, you have a secret. Don't think this can escape my eyes. Hurry up and tell us before you get it.
Get it?
Her pair of questioning eyes came closer. No one could stop Mifi when she was deep in her passion to collect and record any information.
Tell.
Ah,
A troubled smile appeared on Layfon's face. Naruki grabbed the back of Mifi's uniform and dragged her away.
Didn't we have to tell him something? Class is about to begin.
Huh?
Ah, that's right, Cheese. Because Mei Chi is always staggering, we almost forgot about it.
Is it my fault?
Well, me's always making a huge ruckus. Hurry up, me.
Oh.
Naruki pushed Mei Shen. Mei Shen walked forward, facing Layfon, her face a fiery red.
yes?
Lunch. I made a bento. Do you want to eat together?
Huh?
We're always eating out for lunch, so May's decided to make us a bento.
Mei Shen nodded at her, her face so red, it seemed like smoke was about to rise from her head.
It was true. Since his first day here, he'd always been buying bread for lunch. He had helped out in the orphanage, so he knew how to cook, but because of his late shift in the central mechanism, he spent more time sleeping late in the morning.
Ah, is that okay?
Meichi loves to cook. Just be thankful and accept her goodwill.
Wondering whether the continuously nodding Meijin was becoming a robot, Layfon smiled happily.
Then, thank you.
Meishin stopped nodding.
Thanks for the compliment.
No, that's not what I meant. Duh, I meant I also want a girlfriend.
Layfon came to the training complex for platoon training and was accosted by Harley to do some checking. The intense sound of training in other rooms drifted past the walls and into the boy's ears. Only Layfon and Harley were in the room.
That's wrong. We aren't lovers. She just likes to cook.
Oh, that's right. What's this for?
There were two types of K, a destructive K that flowed externally, and an internal K that strengthened the physical body. They were the skills that military artists used. Layfon continued to extend his K into the blade, not knowing what he was doing it for. The sword emitted soft green light. The vein of K made him feel like he'd grown a new limb. The vein extended into the blade to feel its heat and caress the wind around it.
Your concentration of K is incredible. In this case, isn't it better to use a platinum dye? That'll increase the conductive rate. That'll increase the conductive rate.
Really?
Layfon was actually unsatisfied with it. It wasn't as good as the Heaven's Blade he'd used in Grendon. Now that I think about it, wasn't the Heaven's Blade also a platinum dite? But it was useless to compare the two. In the end, the sword was made to fight the Filth Monsters.
So I was able to use the weapon before because of my amount of K.
Not long before, the Filth Monsters had attacked Zuellni. Zuellni's multi-legs were trapped in a Filth Monster's nest. With Layfon's help, that crisis has been resolved. Harley had made a new adjustment to the dite at Layfon's request. A weapon that could be divided into countless wires. Layfon used that to wipe out the larvae. He even stepped outside the city to eliminate the mother.
But they took that weapon. Oh, this is fine.
The student president and Vance had confiscated the weapon. It gave too much of an advantage to Layfon in a platoon match. The dite Layfon was now holding was newly made.
Well, I didn't plan to use that weapon in the platoon matches anyway.
He cut off his K flow and lowered the sword. The residual heat from his K remained in his body, making him sweat.
Really? If you used that, it would have been easy to win a platoon match.
True, but isn't it pointless to win through that method?
Really?
Yes. Besides, the captain would never approve of it.
Ah, true.
She wouldn't be happy winning through other people's strength. Yeah.
Layfon nodded and swung the sword. Having released so much K, he wanted to exercise his limbs. It was a casual swing from high to low. The remaining K on the blade disappeared along with the scattering green light of the dite. He confirmed his body condition by swinging the sword, and while doing that he adjusted his different moves. Slowly swinging the sword again and again, focusing his attention to one single point. He no longer detected the color of K emitting from the blade. The feeling he had had till now, of the changes in his nerves, slowly extended to the outside, resulting in the feeling that Layfon was swinging the sword like a machine. And as he concentrated more, even that robotic feeling was pushed outside of his consciousness. He had become empty, whereas everything else was painted with color. He swung at that color. The point of his blade tore a track through the intangible air. This action repeated itself again and again. No matter how many wounds blossomed in the air, more air rushed in to fill it. He repeated his motion and only stopped when the wound, affecting the flow of air, was unable to recover. Sharnid had been watching at the door.
Seems like it's been cut up to so many pieces that it just died.
It's not that incredible.
But it really is. The wind pressure was strong when you first swung your sword. But in that last swing, the wind pressure just vanished.
Layfon scratched his head, embarrassed by Harley's childlike excitement. Harley, have you finished what I asked for before?
Oh, yes. It's already done.
Harley opened a box beside him and took out two dites. The two dites were like rods of charcoal. They had curved handles that were smooth and polished. In the bend of the handles were metal rings hiding a hook-like thing.
Are they guns?
Sharnid's job was to support the team with long-range fire. It won't do to snipe when we have so few fighters on our team.
What a crude appearance.
The body of the gun looked very heavy. There were no blades extending from above and below, but the shape looked sharp. The gun was designed with several bulging points. Either way, it looked like some type of attacking weapon, and Layfon could tell the texture was not of lithium dite, but the hard chrome dite, the same material of the captain, Nina's iron whips.
Dice. As requested, but the shooting range isn't as long because of the bad conductive rate for the K flow.
Not bad. I don't plan to shoot long distance with this thing. As long as it can hit anyone within 10 May, it's fine with me.
He placed his fingers on the triggers, practicing with his new dits. He reversed the gun barrels.
Is this close quarters gun combat?
As expected of someone from Grendon. You do know a lot.
I think even people not from Grendon would know.
What is close quarters gun combat?
To put it simply, this was martial arts using guns. Guns had the advantage with long-range combat, but compared with swords and daggers, they were slow in terms of close quarters combat. And so a new type of gun skill was invented to overcome this weakness. The skill of close quarters gun combat.
Sharnid Senpai knows how to use it?
Well, people who know how to use this are either stupid people that try to look cool or amazing fighters.
Not sure whether Sharnid was speaking the truth or not, Layfon looked at Harley, who only shrugged.
I'm late.
Came the clear and small voice. It was Feli. Her form was as exquisite as glass art, giving off a pressure as if to freeze everything in her vicinity. But Layfon and the guys were already used to this.
Feli-chan's cute today, too.
Thanks.
She glanced at the guns in his hand and sat down on the long bench in a corner, already losing interest.
Nina's the only one not here.
Meaning she's the last.
Seems so.
Nina was more determined than anyone to strengthen the 17th platoon. She was always the first to arrive for training, but today she hadn't shown up yet.
I remember her saying she had something to do.
I think she's not keen at all.
And just as he said, a lazy atmosphere filled the room. Not knowing what to say, Layfon gazed at his sword.
A lot has happened after the match. Revealing his real strength in the first platoon match was a setback for Nina. This time, he kept himself at the same level as the rest of the platoon and fought seriously. But in the end, they lost the match. He didn't do his best. It was meaningless to hide his strength anymore, and he agreed with Nina that they had to protect the city. Even so, he tried to fight with some will. And the reason for his not giving his all in the fight was because the platoon match wasn't the real military arts competition. Layfon's strength would be needed after the platoon matches. At some time, mobile cities would approach nearby cities and fight for territory. In reality, it was the people living in the city who fought and warred. The reason behind the fight was the fuel source for the Regios, selenium mines. For some reason, a city would only fight against the same kind of city. To reduce the number of casualties, Academy cities had introduced the military arts competition. But even so, this couldn't change the reality that the losing city might die. Zuellni once had 3 selenium mines. When Layfon came to study, it only had 1 mine left. If they lost in the next military arts competition, Zuellni would have lost its one and only mine and faced death.
At first, Layfon didn't understand what this had to do with him. He felt it was unfair, for he had already decided to give up military arts.
Despite that, it didn't feel bad to do what he could for the city. But one of the key people who changed his way of thinking, Nina, was not happy. Against her parents' wishes, Nina ran away from home and came to Zuellni. Without money, she had to work in the core mechanism.
Layfon was also half studying and half working. He always bumped into her at work.
Recently, they'd earned the trust of their supervisor and were assigned together to clean a larger area. Layfon had been working from midnight till dawn beside the wordless Nina. Thinking back, he felt he had never been through such a long night. Anyone could see the unhappiness on her face. Is it really because we lost the match? He thought. But if he was the cause, that part he didn't understand. Speaking of which, shouldn't I speak with her? He was being indecisive about it, and time passed as he brooded.
If there's no practice, can I go back?
Just wait a little bit more.
He had already finished checking her D, and he had nothing to do. Sharnid was leaning against the wall with eyes closed. Perhaps he really was sleeping. Feli squinted at Layfon beneath her long eyelashes, her sharp gaze reproaching him.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
Nina's voice saved him from Feli's sharp gaze. Nina was in her 3rd year, a junior, but she had become the captain of a platoon. You really are slow, Nina. What have you been doing? I almost fell asleep.
I had to look into something and it took some time.
She walked to the center of the training room. The dites in her harness gave off metallic noise as she moved. Doubt rose in Layfon. The sound that was usually reliable and convincing now felt unnatural. The sound of the deets showed she wasn't walking normally. Nina might have sustained wounds in the previous match, but she didn't look injured. She didn't walk carefully so as not to jar a wound.
It's late. We won't be training today.
Why?
Everyone was shocked. Even Feli widened her beautiful eyes, watching Nina with suspicion. Layfon felt the same.
Nina formed a platoon to give something back to Zuellni.
It was because of her passion that he felt it was okay for him to step back onto the path of military arts. And it wasn't just her. Mai-shen, Mifi, Naruki, they followed their dreams with an honest heart, even though the thing that really encouraged him was the letter from his childhood friend Laren.
So, why? Layfon wasn't just surprised at her canceling the training, but today's Nina seemed to lack something, just like the sound coming off the dites in her harness, something he couldn't quite grasp.
I'm thinking of changing the training method. Sorry, we'll just cancel today's training.
Sure.
Go do individual training if you want. Dismissed.
She left the training room. Layfon watched her back. The two dites bumped against each other. It really was an uneasy sound.
She realized this when she was panting heavily and had to stop. She pressed her palm against her chest, just above her heart, and realized that feeling of coarseness was gone.
Huh?
It was gone. The letter she was supposed to give to Layfon was gone.
It was still on her when she left the classroom. She had wanted to give it to him in the room, but while she hesitated and tried to find an opening, he had left. Mei-jin chased after him to the training complex, but as a general studies student, she wasn't sure whether she should enter the building, so she could only wait at the entrance. I can give it to him tomorrow. Isn't it better to hand it over now? Should I go in? Would I be interrupting? Should I just wait here till he finishes training? She couldn't wait for long as it was almost time for her shift at the coffee shop. She had checked that she still had the letter while thinking outside the training complex. She'd had the letter then. While checking to be sure that the letter really wasn't on her, she couldn't help but think what would happen next. That letter had been stuffed into the crack between the door and the wall, with other letters at the dormitory. Besides the letter from her parents, she also found letters from close relatives and friends. And when Mei-shen was happily checking the names on the letters, she found this name, Lirin Marfus, a name she hadn't heard of before. She checked the name of the successor and held her breath. It was Layfon.
She realized that the letter must have been delivered to the wrong place. She and Layfon lived in different dormitories with different room numbers.
This letter was mistakenly delivered to her room by some coincidence. But, Lirin, this is a girl's name, right? If only she could ignore this name and stay immersed in happiness. What is their relationship? Friends? What if they're lovers? Uneasiness filled her chest. But, to peek into another person's letter, her fingers shook. Looking at someone else's letter wasn't worth praising. But she really did mind it. If this Lirin was someone important to Layfon, then what about Mei-shen herself? She was afraid, thinking that the truth could be written in this letter. Even if she just left the letter alone, she'd probably have insomnia. No, but... Shaky fingers lightly touched the covering of the envelope. She mustn't peel it off too obviously. Lightly.
And she read what was inside. What she felt afterwards were a sense of self-hatred and rivalry.
She relaxed, knowing she herself was the only one looking after Layfon's diet. Yet at the same time, she was jealous of the time that Layfon had spent with Liring. The guilt and self-hatred of peeking into another's letters stayed with Mei-shen. She had decided to give him back the letter when she was making him a bento. She had wanted to, but somehow dragged it out till after school, and now this had happened.
But it was there earlier.
Oh, perhaps because she had appeared before Mei-shen, who was determined to stand outside the complex and wait for Layfon.
She didn't mind being late to her job at the coffee shop since this was her fault, but when Mei-shen had worked up her courage, she appeared. Feli lost. Hearing Feli's question, asking what Mei-shen wanted with Layfon, the determination Mei-shen held vanished like a puff of smoke, and she ran off as if she was escaping. She must have dropped the letter then.
I find it strange.
Nobody felt like training after Nina left, so they just dispersed. Sharnid left immediately to go somewhere, and Harley went back to his lab after saying to Layfon, "I'll find you if something comes up." Layfon and Feli ended up leaving together, as their dormitories lay in the same direction. Feli was 1 year older than Layfon, but she looked like a girl just a little over 10 years of age.
She actually suggested we cancel training. This doesn't feel right.
Nothing. Senpai's worried about the captain, so...
Feli glared at him, her pale face turning pink.
Feli's level of psychokinesis was of the level of a genius, but she hated to use it. She was in the 17th platoon because her brother Carrion Loss, the student president, forced her into it.
As if I'd worry about her. I meant that her coming up with weird ideas doesn't feel right.
Feli increased her pace, her argent hair fluttering behind her. The male students walking past the pair couldn't help but stop and look at her. Layfon caught up with her walking past the dreamy-eyed male students.
But it really is strange.
Even if she were changing the training methods, there was no need to cancel today's session. It was more like she was distracted by something else.
That's what Layfon thought. However, he didn't know what it was. He remembered Nina's attitude at work last night, a cold expression coupled with silence. Was it really because they lost the match? Perhaps she was thinking of something else.
But I still don't get it.
Are you still thinking? Please slow down.
Oh, sorry.
He had sped up his pace unconsciously. The Felly he knew now always had some sort of expression on her face. This was different from when he first met her. Neutral. A face like a doll's.
You won't find the answer by thinking too much. All you need is to observe more keenly.
True.
Compared to that,
What?
nothing. My brother wants you.
The student president needs me?
Knowing Layfon's past, Carrion had forced him into the military arts department.
I wasn't told why, but he said it's important.
Felly was also unhappy.
Shall we go and meet him?
Why didn't she just tell him at school?
No,
What?
I need to buy groceries for dinner. Please come with me.
Why Felly's place? Before he could ask that question, she had strolled ahead of him. He followed silently.
And now he was holding shopping bags in both of his hands. Just how many days of groceries has she bought? Felly was also walking with her hands full. Instead of parting at the usual place, they headed for Felly's dormitory. Layfon felt uneasy walking in an unfamiliar part of the city. It looks big.
It looked more like a villa than a dormitory. On the first floor was a big living room enclosed in glass walls.
A spiral staircase, next to the sofa, took them up to the second floor. Layfon clearly felt the gap between the rich and poor as he pushed open the engraved door. It was too naive of him to get so excited over having a twin room all to himself. A wide corridor stretched ahead to another spacious living room, and from there was a door that led to more rooms.
Please leave the groceries over there.
The kitchen was about the same size as Layfon's room. He didn't know whether to feel comforted or disappointed by this.
I'm going to make dinner.
Layfon put down the groceries and went to sit on the sofa in the living room. A desk, a magazine bookcase, small oil paintings adorned the walls, looking as if they were just put up to have something cover the bare walls. The room felt dry and tasteless. There were actually 2 doors leading from the living room. One of the doors must lead to Felly's room. Then the other...
I see. She lives with the student president. This wasn't surprising since they were siblings. So why does this meeting have to be a secret? The student president had somehow obtained information about Layfon's past, but the two of them weren't close enough to share each other's secrets. In truth, Layfon didn't want to meet Carrion. Well, there's no point in thinking about it. I'll find out soon enough, he decided, recalling Felly's advice.
With nothing to do, he listened to the noise coming from the kitchen. The sound of sorting out the groceries was replaced by the sound of chopping.
Whoa!
Layfon called at the irregular sound and went over to the kitchen.
Senpai, what are you doing?
With a serious facial expression, she fought the potato seriously with a knife in her hand. Felly held down the uneven, round potato on the chopping board with the tip of her trembling fingers and slowly cut it in half. Sliced taro filled the salad bowl beside her.
Senpai,
What?
do you know how to cook?
Of course.
Of course.
What?
He smiled again. He wanted to laugh, but suppressed it.
What is it?
He could only laugh, but he couldn't laugh to her face.
Well, I have a suggestion.
And what is it?
It'll be easier to cut the rest if you peel the skin off first.
Her eyes widened. He didn't mean to hurt her dignity. All he wanted to do was give some advice, but he still wanted the food to be edible. No, he wasn't thinking of using another's kitchen and showing off his skill at cooking.
This is delicious.
Felly ate the food with disapproval.
What?
No, nothing. This is delicious.
Thanks.
In the end, Layfon made the dinner. Because there was too much potato in the salad bowl, he used the potato to make another dish, one with mushrooms, chicken fillets, and cream. They had plenty of ingredients to choose from. Next came the bread, and that was their dinner.
And I was thinking of eating dinner together at a nearby restaurant. It's been a while since I've had a home-cooked meal. I'm really grateful.
But it's a shame this is a guy's cooking.
It's enough that you know how to cook. Do you like cooking?
Not really. Everyone had to help out back at the orphanage.
Oh, I see.
Layfon didn't know his parents. The head of the orphanage picked him up when he was little. The head was a military artist, and the person who discovered Layfon's talent.
I'm envious of your cooking skill. I wanted to learn how to cook after coming here. but it's beyond my ability.
Whether or not this was taken at face value, the idea that this brother and sister pair was unable to do something necessary to survive was alien to Layfon.
Oh, we can leave that for later. I want to enjoy the food.
Layfon wanted to finish what he came for and get out of here. Feli sat eating her food in a foul mood. Carrion also noticed her mood, but he did nothing about it. Anyway, just finished dinner, and Layfon concentrated on eating. After dinner, Feli picked up the dishes and made tea for Layfon and her brother in the living room. The tea smelled nice. Feli seemed to have used some high-class tea leaves.
I want to show you this.
Carrion said, giving Layfon no time to enjoy the tea. He took out a photo from a folder.
I realized from the last attack on Zuellni that I had to have a bigger budget set aside for the city's defense.
That's a good idea.
Carrion must have realized this since Zuellni hadn't encountered filth monsters for a long time. Zuellni was a peaceful city. The city was populated entirely by students, so even the electronic ferry itself hadn't been paying attention to the possibility of filth monsters nearby. It sounded amazing that a city was run by students, but to put it in a worse light, it was a city full of immature youngsters.
Thanks. So I've been sending off drones since then, and this image came back?
A bad quality image. Everything was blurred. This was due to the pollutants in the air, affecting any long-range wireless communication. Somehow only psychokinesis worked well for long-range transmitting, but it was still not possible to establish contact between cities. This image had nothing to do with psychokinesis.
It's hard to make out, but the location of this image is a mountain about 500 km ahead of Zuellni's current position.
Carrion traced his fingers around a shape in the mountains, so Layfon could finally see it.
What I'm worried about is this area of mountain here. What do you think?
Layfon studied the image for some time. Then he placed it back on the desk and rubbed his tired eyes. Feli stood to the side, looking at the photo.
How is it?
I fear the same.
What is this?
A filth monster.
She glared at her brother.
Are you planning to use him again?
Relying on him is the only way we can survive.
What's the point of having a military arts course?
The true strength of military arts, Feli, you should understand now, thanks to what happened recently.
But
Even I want him to focus just on the military arts competition, but this is an emergency, there's no helping it. Then, what do you think?
Carrion's finger pressed on the image of the filth monster.
It's probably a male. Compared to the size of this mountain, the filth monster's either in its first or second phase.
The city I was born in hadn't come across any filth monsters for a long time, so I can't really tell how strong this is.
A filth monster in its first or second phase isn't that horrible, but that's when it isn't attacking a city. Almost all of the filth monsters enter their reproductive stage in their third to fifth phase. The most terrible are filth monsters who've given up on reproducing. They grow stronger as time passes.
Have you beaten one of these monsters?
With 2 other people. At the time, I thought I was going to die.
The lost siblings took a deep breath at that. Layfon observed their reaction without much of an emotion. After dinner, he left the dormitory.
do you hate him?
You've asked me that before.
His muscles froze in the middle of the staircase. While Feli listened, Layfon answered with a wry smile.
I'm not joking.
I know.
Very few people know you were a Heaven's Blade successor in Grendon. My brother doesn't plan to spread it around, so you can just ignore his request.
Almost no one knew it was Layfon who had defeated the attacking filth monsters. The few who knew were Carrion, Vance, and the members of the 17th Platoon. Not many people outside of Grendon knew about the Heaven's Blade successors. But even now, matches for the Heaven's Blade title were being fought fiercely in Grendon. People fought filth monsters and each other for the title of the strongest 12.
That can't be announced casually.
The Queen of Grendon took away Layfon's title as a Heaven's Blade successor because he had tainted its name. If everyone knew about his title, then they'd all know of his shameful past, so he'd keep this a secret.
Why didn't you say you don't want to do this? Don't you want to give up military arts?
I want to, but right now.
Then why?
In the end, the filth monsters are the same as the military arts competition. Isn't that so?
You're an idiot.
That's too much.
You really are an idiot.
He shrugged. Chapter 2. What can be done?
K was a flowing energy inside of every human being. Blood flow sent signals through the nervous system.
It flowed through the bone marrow. It was like a network of thoughts. And amidst all the flowing energies was one called K. Certain people were born with the ability to create a huge amount of K. On a certain level, one could view it as redundant energy produced by the phenomenon called life. K could strengthen the body or destroy things outside the body. Did this new human ability evolve to ensure the survival of mankind in this polluted world?
Or was this the evidence that pollutants were slowly invading the human body? Humans called this power heaven's blessing. They treasured it and respected it. The flow of K created the military arts. It took a long time to pass down and spread this skill through the cities in the world. And in the intervening time, many cities fell prey to the Filth Monsters. The sound of a breath being let out brushed past his ears. Layfon pulled back his stance to respond to that breath, and the sole of a shoe suddenly appeared before him. Wah! He bent forward and a kick went over his head. His opponent changed tactics and swung down towards Layfon's back with the foot. In a flash, Layfon's left hand shot upward to grab the foot, his right hand already pressing down his opponent's chest, and he kicked out at his opponent's other leg.
What?
Red hair scattered. His opponent fell onto the mat on her back. Amazement at the action echoed throughout the gymnasium. Are you all right?
I thought I almost got you.
Yeah, almost.
That's like praise coming from you. You just increased your speed to avoid my kick, right? I lost because of that.
Naruki combed her hair with her fingers. A cunning smile appeared on her face.
Speaking of which, Layton, have you forgotten I'm a girl?
Huh? Then he remembered how he had pressed his hand down on her chest.
Yes, I admit my breasts aren't big, but for you not to have felt it, it makes me feel a bit.
No, I didn't mean that. My body just moved on its own, he explained. Speaking of which, it was a shame he couldn't feel that softness. No, how could he think like that?
I was just joking.
That's mean.
You gotta pay the price for touching a girl's breast. That's the etiquette for being a man.
Really?
Yes. Besides, I don't want to be touched so easily.
She said, scanning the sports hall. He followed her gaze. This was the class for martial arts. Most of the first-year students had been kicked flying and were lying on the floor. Thunderous noise filled the hall. Their sparring partners were all third-year students. As expected, none of the first-year students were winning. Layfon was in first year but was also a platoon member. Nobody wanted to spar with him, so he was paired up with Naruki.
Has the captain of your platoon got some kind of problem?
The two of them were watching Nina. Nina calmly fought the two first-year students she was facing.
Does she look like that to you?
Yes. As if her heart's somewhere else.
Yeah. Layfon also thought so.
Do you know something?
We had a match recently.
Aha. Losing a match can be shocking.
Almost all of the platoon captains were in their fourth year, but Nina was a third year. She obtained permission to form a platoon because of her excellent skill, but that wasn't all that she wanted to do. She wanted to save Zuellni through her own strength. In other words, she wanted to win in the next military arts competition. Therefore, losing a match must have been a huge blow to her.
Even though that was how he thought.
What is it? Is something wrong?
No. That's what I think.
But he felt that wasn't the real reason. Things weren't as simple as he thought they were.
Hey, you over there! Practice seriously! Sorry.
Layfon apologized automatically to the three third-year students. Behind those three were other first-year students, watching Layfon with curious glances. As for the three third-year students...
What is it?
He's the trump card of the 17th platoon, right?
One of them said without glancing at her. All three were watching Layfon with challenging gazes.
Do you want something from me, all three at once?
A hostile and provoking attitude. Hiding in it was jealousy. Layfon was used to the negative emotion currently hanging in the air. It was a normal event for him, like eating meals every day. He had encountered this sort of scene before and after he became a Heaven's Blade successor in Grendon. This was an older person's contemptuous attitude towards his junior Jektum and his jealousy at having a kid be better than him.
I'm fine with it.
Layton? You don't have a sword, though. Is that okay, too?
No problem. It's natural not to use a sword in a martial arts class. Aren't you a bit conceited?
This is not conceit. Besides, it's just a class.
That's being conceited. That male student had reached his limit. Layfon felt a growing gap between his words and feelings. He responded lightly to the provokers, as if he was a robot. He didn't think the situation would improve if he said anything else, so he decided to accept the challenge. But he didn't think accepting the challenge would improve the situation either.
I'm not conceited.
He said anyway.
I see.
The observing crowd turned angry. They watched the three third-year students move to Layfon from three different directions. Layfon didn't take a stance. He took a step back so he could see all three of his opponents.
Well then.
As the person directly facing Layfon muttered, the two students rushed in from the side.
Let's go!
Strengthening their bodies through internal type K, they attacked Layfon with fists and feet.
The bullet-like fist and scythe-like kick didn't hit Layfon.
Huh? Layfon was in the air. He turned in midair and kicked off at the steel beam on the ceiling to descend at unbelievable speed. A loud noise from the mat on the floor confirmed his position right behind the student in the center.
What? His surprised face was inches from Layfon's. Layfon stood up.
Woo!
His fist found the chest of his surprised opponent. Ignoring the third-year student he had defeated, he faced the other two.
The other two third-year students turned back at the noise and saw their friend lying on the floor. Layfon still hadn't taken a stance.
He stood, stoic, paying no attention to the student he had just taken out, his gaze sweeping through the other two students, and in that one swift moment, he disappeared.
It looked as if he disappeared. In fact, the other two third-year students couldn't keep up with his movement. In the silence of a light breeze, Layfon moved swiftly to the two opponents and repeated his attack, burying his fist into their chests.
Whoa!
The two students toppled. Joyful shouts erupted from the group of first-year students. Layfon let out a breath to soften his blank expression.
I don't think you should have done that.
They only had class in the morning, so the four of them went a bit further from the school today to the patio of a general studies senpai's restaurant. The patio faced a freshwater lake that was used for agriculture.
They ordered the cheapest juice from the restaurant and took out Meishin sandwiches from the basket. It was refreshing to appreciate the lake while eating. Layfon saw a field of fruit trees on the other side of the lake, and more fields for the agricultural major. There weren't any tall buildings anywhere.
The sky looked like it merged with the trees.
I mean your attitude back in the gymnasium.
Oh.
Huh? What's that?
Mifi had started the conversation as she had gotten news of the incident and wanted Layfon and Naruki to give her more details.
No matter what, they were just jealous.
True. I'm not saying he should have lost deliberately to them because they were senpais, but I feel it would have been best to leave them some face.
Naruki didn't worry about other patrons overhearing. It was past lunchtime, so there weren't many people in the restaurant. For example?
For example, not taking on 3 people at once and fighting them one-on-one instead.
Is that all? But didn't he finish them one by one?
They wouldn't have accepted it. Aren't they in a platoon too?
Perhaps they wouldn't have accepted it, but it would have looked better if the other 3 suggested the 3-on-1 fight. Now it looks like Layton's the bad guy.
Oh, perhaps she was right.
Layton might not care how other people perceive him, but this is troublesome for the friends around you.
She then looked at Meishin.
Meishin waved her hand in negation.
Sorry. I didn't think about that.
Well, I might seem harsh, but I just don't like people bad-mouthing my friends.
Thanks.
Layfon nodded his thanks.
Never mind. It's not Layton's fault, so don't mind it.
Yeah, don't worry about it, Layton.
Thanks.
Face reddening, Meishin lowered her head. But perhaps there was a problem with his attitude.
Just as Naruki had said, Layfon didn't mind making enemies, to the point that he had no interest in it at all. All he wanted was to end the fight as quickly as possible. He didn't care what consequences came from that. That was the attitude he held. Why did he have such an attitude? There wasn't a need to ask that question. Problems were never ending. Before he became a Heaven's Blade successor, he'd fought countless matches with people jealous of his talent. People challenged him. They felt they had been insulted because he was only a kid. He was foolish to respond to them all seriously. From the very beginning, he had had no knowledge of Naruki's alternate method. Still, when he had grown up a little, he felt it wouldn't be bad to have an attitude that could avoid some of the trouble. In the end, he still hadn't understood. When he was little, he had always used his fist to solve his problems, and he now responded instinctively. Till now, he had never thought anything of his attitude. He didn't know what other people thought of him, and the people at the orphanage were happy he was becoming strong. That was enough for him. But because of that...
Speaking of which, what did we come here for today? Although I had always wanted to come here one day.
Naruki had suggested coming here today. This restaurant was quite popular among girls. Of course, Naruki had told Mifi and Layfon that when she'd said she wanted to come here. Layfon also felt strange about Naruki's request to come here, since Mifi was usually the one jumping to this kind of thing.
Well, I have a favor to ask of Layton.
Here?
We didn't have to come here. If Layton's okay with it, I can just say this.
Is it tiring?
Sometimes it's relaxing. Sometimes it's hard work, or not hard work at all.
but it'll surely take away some of your time.
That's like a riddle.
Yeah. This isn't like me.
Is this to work for Naki?
A sour smile on Naruki's face.
Yes.
To work for Naruki meant to work with the city police.
Me?
I'm not trying to scout you from the platoon. I don't have the authority anyway, but the military arts course has recommended people to the city police. I only knew of this after joining the police force, and there's one empty slot in that temporary list.
And you want me to join?
Ah, my superior knows that I know you. He wants me to ask you. A first year entering a platoon really stands out.
But I have to clean the central mechanism.
I know, so I'm not forcing you. Since you're a temp, that means you won't know when you'll be called, and the pay also isn't that good. I understand it's not reasonable to ask this of you when your job and schoolwork have such irregular hours, but
Looking at her troubled expression, Layfon felt there must be something else she was hiding. If he didn't agree to her request, he might never find out about it.
I get it. Sure.
Really?
Yeah, Naruki. You and you two are so good to me. If it's something I can do, I'll do it.
No, it might be strange for me to say this now, but you can think about it for a few days more and then give me your answer.
That's all right. Whether it is the cleaning job or team training, I don't think they'd mind if I let them know what I'm doing.
I'll tell them. After all, I asked for your help.
Okay, then shall we end the conversation here?
He clapped his hands. He never thought he'd be asked to work the same day.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Layfon said to Naruki. They stood in a building at the outskirts of the residential district, looking at the ground below. Naruki's superior in the city police was formed Garen, a fifth-year student in cultivation course. Short, but with a sturdy build, Garen was nervously checking water in the lab.
Ah, it's you. I'm sorry for troubling you.
It felt hard to approach Garen, but the man wasn't that difficult to get along with, really. His big and rough hand, like a blacksmith's, placed a beaker on the desk with caution, perhaps even fondness.
It's a bit too quick, but I want you to lend us your strength.
Sure.
Garen didn't look concerned at asking for Layfon to work right now. That must be the difficulty that Naruki was trying to hide. I want to explain the details to you. Have you got time today?
I have work in the mechanism today. If you can do something about that, I don't mind.
No, you don't have to.
either way, we're students. An equal price must be paid for the difficult living circumstances affected by this.
Layfon's reservations were quickly brushed aside. Besides, those guys who snatch away the achievements of the students' hard work must be punished, Garen said, unable to hide his fury. And so Layfon stayed to watch the dormitories near the building he was in.
I can make money doing this too.
Layfon murmured to himself, who hadn't expected to get extra pay, and looked away from the dormitory to what was near it, the roaming bus station. Most people who needed to use the buses were those getting out of the city, and most of them were business travelers, moving between cities to sell products. Sometimes true travelers without homes would appear, but that was rare. The freedom of travelers in Zuellni was restricted, as all the districts were populated by students. The dormitory here was made for that purpose.
Hasn't anyone taught you that intelligence is the most important thing?
Yeah, back in Grendon, I was always checking for sales.
That was important. If I wasn't paying attention, many kids wouldn't have seen the new year.
Feeling the speechless atmosphere around them, Layfon recalled what Garen had told him earlier. They were watching a dormitory that a group of business travelers had been living in for 2 weeks. The travelers identified themselves as businessmen from the city of Rollgreif. They worked for a logistics division under the international company Vinesleif. In the business district of Zuellni, Vinesleif sold news, novels, and comic books from other cities, and also current information on fashion and entertainment. On the other hand, Zuellni also sold news and entertainment information made in Zuellni, as well as any auto-unveiled seeds of new species developed in the agriculture course. This group of business travelers had been staying for 2 weeks. Roaming buses didn't follow a schedule. Every bus traveled freely between cities. It wasn't possible to make a timetable for them. Sometimes one had to wait a month to get on a bus that would take them to their destination.
But where's the evidence against them?
A data chip was tiny. The tiniest was just the size of a fingernail. As such, a chip could be hidden anywhere. And besides, many of the products brought in by the business travelers were also data chips. The best way to hide a tree was to put it in a forest. Even if they had the data chip from the lab, it would still be hard for the city police to find it. Yes, the city police had an eyewitness. Every city had its own laws. There were laws set down by the Academy City Alliance that applied to general areas,
but in reality, only the police force in the city itself could enforce the laws.
Inside Zuellni, there were no jails to keep people in for a long period. Students who committed a crime were either suspended or forced to withdraw from a course. As for people outside Zuellni, they were forced to leave the city. When the crime involved a company and some organization, all Zuellni could do was report it to that organization and the government of the city that the organization was based in. Zuellni had no way of interfering with whether the criminals would receive punishment back in their home city or not. But without the roaming buses, cities would become isolated. Besides, if the criminals were outsiders, they had nowhere to hide in the city. Usually, they wouldn't resist meaninglessly and would follow the city police's instructions. If they resisted, they'd either die or be forced to leave, which was much better than being marooned on the barren earth. As long as they didn't come close to the city anymore, their crimes would also disappear. But
Garen's expression twisted.
And the departure time is?
if they knew there was a way out, the criminals might escape on their own. They'd probably do that.
But in that case, you could have picked someone else.
Garen smiled, a cunning smile. He patted Layfon's shoulder.
Layfon touched his shoulder, and it wasn't pain, but Garen's expectation, which wasn't a bad feeling at all. But the him hiding somewhere inside himself wasn't sure whether that expectation was a comfortable feeling. Will I feel troubled by someone else's expectation of me? No answer surfaced. Now answer surfaced.
I'm sorry.
Naruki said suddenly. City policemen had been deployed around the dormitory. 2 officers were heading for the dormitory, about to confiscate the data chips.
What?
Sorry for asking you to do this.
It's nothing.
No, because this is too despicable. He used our connection to...
What does it matter? I don't mind so long as it's something I'm capable of doing. Mei Shen's bento was delicious. I feel bad for always accepting her goodwill, so I'm glad I have a chance to return the favor.
No, you don't get it, Layton. Platoon members don't have to work for the city police. This isn't your job.
Now he understood why Garen said, "It has to be you." So that was why. Did Garen think that it was easier to call on Layfon because of his ignorance? The feeling of Garen's hand on his shoulder disappeared. Even so, no resentment arose in him.
That really is strange. Power should be used where it's needed. So if there's a need here for a platoon member, then a platoon member should help out.
In truth, a Heaven's Blade successor's main duty was to fight filth monsters, but sometimes they also worked with the police to maintain security. A few Heaven's Blade successors were so strong that they could only fight filth monsters, but the rest of the successors helped out the police as best as they could. Layfon felt uneasy that, being a platoon member, he had the privilege of using his strength for good and ill.
Layton,
And they said they're paying me for this, so you don't have to mind me.
really? I suppose. Well,
A devious light shone in her eyes as her face relaxed.
Oh,
You don't want to?
that's fine, but where should I take her?
There are many restaurants she hasn't tried. I'll ask Miffy to pick a bright restaurant with a good atmosphere. You take care of the rest.
Isn't that the hardest part?
Anyway, his experience in dating a girl was limited to Liren. Besides, at that age, he never quite thought of Liren as a girl. They hadn't reached the age of romance yet. He hadn't seriously thought of what places a girl would be happy to visit.
Good luck.
Naruki smiled at the sighing Layfon.
Thunderous noise shot out from the dormitory. Naruki and Layfon turned their faces to that direction.
The door to the dormitory was busted open. The 2 officers rolled out from the room.
Blood sprayed in the air.
5 men ran out, kicking aside the shattered door. The document said there were 5 people, so all 5 were here. One of the men carried an old suitcase. The data chip must have been inside. Layfon studied the culprits.
All 5 of them.
all?
Yes, and they're all skilled.
Layfon saw the light of K flowing in them. Wild internal type K roared in their bodies. Naruki also narrowed her eyes, but couldn't see anything. She didn't doubt Layfon's words.
This is bad.
We also have 5 military artists in the surrounding forces, but it's best if we move over to the scene.
As they were analyzing the situation, policemen had surrounded the 5 culprits, raising their batons.
Don't resist.
A student who seemed to be the captain shouted. The business travelers took that in a relaxed manner. Layfon saw they had deets in their hands.
I'm going.
Counting on ya?
The 5 business travelers made their move as Layfon leaped out the window. They restored their deets, sword, gun, scimitar.
All were close-quarters weapons. The normal students in the troop called out. The 5 moved. Their movements weren't particularly fast to a military artist, but their weapons were hard enough to cut through flesh and bone. Compared to them, the policemen only held batons. A baton was the same as a dite, and could be quite powerful if used in different ways. Unfortunately, all of the dits in Zuellni had safety locks on. A pointy blade would have its point removed. In Zuellni, they fought fights that would never see anyone die, and that point was now decisive in this fight. The movements of students who lacked experience in fighting with dangerous weapons and the movements of mercenary military artists who had earned their fair share in life and death battles were really different.
Whoa! The thought of not letting the enemy's blade come close made their movements stiff. The baton pulled close to defend, but the opponent's blade pierced through an opening. Blood spurted from the student's shoulder.
He wasn't the only student calling in pain and falling onto the ground. The other 4 students had different wounds on different parts of their bodies. And then, Layfon landed. The 5 culprits were about to rush into the roaming bus. Noticing Layfon, they all stared at him in surprise, alarmed, but they didn't stop running. Layfon restored his dite. K flowed into the blade, and a blue light traced the night sky. He swung. His K shot out of the sword towards the 5 people. The nearest 2 culprits jumped up and evaded the attack, but Layfon wasn't targeting them. A light noise came from beside his feet. The suitcase had rolled to him.
The man who had been holding the suitcase yelled in pain. Layfon kicked back the suitcase. It slid to one of the members of the troop.
You! The 5 stopped running. Layfon raised his sword, as if to prevent them from going past him. It seemed the police were right. The data chip must be in the suitcase.
It's not good to steal.
The 5 rushed towards Layfon. Layfon slowly moved the blade before him. The 5 closed in on Layfon at high speed, using internal type K. Layfon shot out external burst type K. The 3 people in front of him jumped aside to avoid the Kai. But where were the other 2? Without giving him time to think, the man leading the 5 landed and slashed upwards. Layfon jumped back, and at the same time 2 people appeared from behind the man, as if his back had just split in 2. They attacked Layfon's sides. Layfon crouched, evading a huge knife, and used his sword to block the stabbing motion of a spear. The 3 encircled Layfon. The other 2 people. Hey, what happened? The man who previously carried the suitcase shouted. He looked back and saw his 2 comrades lying on the ground. How did this?
I knew it wasn't possible for 5 of you to reach me.
It was you.
I saw through your moves. Your tricks were useless.
He deliberately let the 2 evade his K the first time he shot it out, but he hit a second wave of K within it, one that dispersed into the evading paths. Needle K, the condensed form of K, hit the 2 in their chests, and they fainted.
And
Layfon looked behind him.
The 3 remaining culprits also followed his gaze. They widened their eyes in surprise. The suitcase was gone. Had the police taken it? No. Layfon's gaze flicked to the upper left, the rooftop of the dormitory, and saw Naruki. In her right hand was the end of a rope, and the left was a suitcase, wrapped tightly in the rope. Naruki's lassoing skill.
I'm not returning this to you.
Damn you! The 3 rushed towards Layfon, who was pouring K into his sword, not at all impatient. His K had turned the sword into a part of his body, and through it, he felt the murderous intent of the 3 and the disturbance of the air. The point of the sword caressed the air as if to quiet it. Then Layfon slashed the air apart. External burst type K, whirl K. The wind before Layfon ceased its movement for a split second, and it started to spin at an increasing velocity. It pulled the 3 culprits in, floating and tossing their bodies in midair. Numerous small explosions battered them, the air spinning madly, the K smashing them without a moment of rest. As everyone gazed at this scene, breathless, Layfon raised his sword and swung down. The air stopped spinning. All noise ceased, leaving behind the silence of the 3 unconscious criminals. He had already checked the contents of the suitcase. The police collected themselves and went to deal with the 5 men. Garen instructed. Members of the troop went to cut through the culprit's clothes. They were being careful, considering how the data chip could be hidden inside a seam. Layfon watched the men work as he checked the contents of the suitcase.
is it in here?
The inside of the suitcase was crammed full of data chips. Garen's smile turned devious. Layfon widened his eyes. That was true, but the way that Garen told him this so honestly and matter-of-factly was a bit surprising.
Yeah.
Garen said and left to join the men looking through the clothes of the culprits.
I'm sorry. He's that type of a person.
Naruki said and patted Layfon's shoulder.
No, I don't find him a bad person.
Naruki frowned at Garen.
Perhaps. I can't really tell whether his attitude on money is good or bad.
I'm not sure either.
Layfon smiled bitterly. This must be nonchalance. People might think Garen was thick-skinned, but Garen himself didn't find his action despicable. No, he wouldn't have cared even if people thought him base. That was the truth. Garen was similar to the old Layfon back in Grendon, doing all he could to earn money for the orphanage. Only that Layfon had hidden his attitude till the last moment, and he hid it because he felt guilty about it. Would I have turned out differently if I was honest like him? He couldn't help but think of this possibility, but that was pointless. It was useless to think up hypotheses. The present him existed because he was unable to become like Garen. Besides, I don't hate the me I am now, the me, his circumstances. He had hoped for such a good environment. No, there's still pressure here. Still a tiny bit of trouble. How did Senpai spend her night? What was she worrying about? No answers came from the night sky he was gazing at. Above him was only the darkness, scattered with the light of countless stars.